Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Justin Frederick and Ryan Gertis. You're going to want to text the word cash to 623-AZ-RECON. That's cash to 623-AZ-RECON. So, Justin, Ryan and I, we're in the middle of we're about 2 months into this flip on San Marcos.
Yeah.
About 2 months in. And so we've pulled together some investors. We've pulled together some cash, and literally some cash. And so we had this extra grand laying around that wasn't collected. So I collected it and I put it in his desk like 2 months ago. And I walked in today and he's sitting at his seat with like, what the heck? I got $1,000 worth of cash. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, what are you doing?
He already spent it.
Cash is king.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a lot of things that you can do with cash, and one of the things that we want to share with for our team and what we're doing at the Real Estate 401k Group is we are in a season of flips right now. There's different types of flip opportunities, whether somebody's going through foreclosure, whether somebody just can't sell and their house is beat to hell, behind on. There's a variety of different reasons. There's a variety of different houses, and it doesn't matter where it necessarily comes from. What matters is they're popping up and we're jumping on them, and we're jumping on them for our investors. And so my message right now to our listeners, if you are an investor, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be a flip, it could be a long-term hold. There's a lot of strategies there.
Or you could be remodeling your own house.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have access to cash, whether you have the cash, whether you have a team of people that you can pull together cash, or you have access to hard money, or you want to be introduced to our hard money people, Ryan, I think 2026 is going to be a fantastic opportunity. And you and I, we get to the point, and I like to disclose, like, listen, Ryan and I, we get first right of refusal on everything, right? Because we're out there hustling, we're finding the deals, but we can't necessarily all the time buy everything. And so it leaves a very unique opportunity for our investors.
I'm gonna bring up my grandmother. Rest in peace. She died about 4 years ago at 102.
Dang.
Yeah. And when I was a kid, all the way up through elementary
What's the
school,
over-under for Ryan making
No.
that off?
I mean,
maybe 82.
he's done some abuse on that body.
Yeah. We're not going there.
I've partied with Ryan.
Well, there goes 2 more years of my life. Jeez.
You guys will
One
always-
night, 2
Yeah.
years.
You guys will always have Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Glad I missed that one.
That's a good one, buddy.
Yeah.
She would pick me up every Thursday from school, and the first place we would go to was the bank. And she grew up, like she was a younger girl during the Depression,
Yeah.
right? And so back then it was all about cash. So we'd go over to the bank, and she would make her deposits, or she would make her withdrawals, or whatever. And it was always just, she always made sure she had X amount of dollars on her. She knew that she was going to go get her hair done. She knew that we were going out to the movies. She knew what the budget was for the week, and she said, "Okay, we're going to do cash for it." Fast forward, right? Everyone starts getting more plastic in their wallets. They start getting supercomputers, which we call cell phones, and we're able to pay for everything so easily now by tapping or
It's
by
dangerous.
Zelling or swiping. And so because when we'd go to the bank, there'd be a line of 10, 15 people out there, right? Now when I go to the bank, I walk directly up to the teller. There's never a line there because nobody gives a shit about cash. They're doing it all online. And while that's convenient, while that's easier, and I know a lot of people, they won't carry cash because they feel like they're more of a target. I don't want to have all this cash. I'm afraid someone's going to rob me. For some reason or another, they feel like they're more secure having electronic funds. That being said, you've talked about San Marcos. I'm happy to walk over to the bank and say, "Hey, look, I need X amount of dollars in cash," because I know that if I go and I hire someone to paint the house, that while it might cost $10,000 to do it, if I were to Zelle them or give them a check or whatever electronic channel that you want to use in order to pay someone, I'm going to get charged $10,000. I can say, hey, look, what if I give you cash? Now all of a sudden I'm getting it for 8,000 or 8,500 as opposed to 10. And all I had to do was make one quick stop over at the bank to pick up cash. And I think that a lot of people are forgetting how easy it is and how accessible it is, and why not? I mean, it took me an extra 30 minutes out of my day to save $1,500 just on paint.
No math major, but
Yeah.
it seems like a good ROI.
Yeah. I'm not worth $3,000 an hour. I wish, but that's essentially what just happened by simply me going over to the bank saying, hey, I need cash, rather than me electronically transferring funds over to our painter. So I hope that paints a picture for you about how things are going right now, because I think in the near future, maybe not near future, but before we die, they're probably going to get rid of cash. And having that as a value add that you can offer to your contractors or to whomever that you're transacting with is going to go bye-bye, because the government loves to see all the transactions going down so that they can tax you on it. And while I understand it, I don't blame them for it. The government's running a business.
And they started with the penny.
Yeah, they got rid of the penny.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be the nickel, and then
yep.
it's going to be the dime, and then
And then they'll
next
get rid of
thing
the
you know-
dollar.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're gonna be a completely cashless industry, like world, right? And so take advantage of it while you can right now, and enjoy the fact that there are a lot of people that are willing to give you massive breaks if you show them that green, baby.
That's right.
All right, if you'd like some more information on how you can leverage cash and the opportunities that are out there in the market, if you're able to pull together cash, like I said, you might have $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in your savings account, and I, for me, I'm going to make more money in real estate than I am going to, put that into the market. But and then I know, Ryan, you always tell the story of when you started investing. You didn't have the cash to go out and be a solo investor, but you teamed up with a variety of people, pulled together cash, and then now, for you and I, and it's a lot of these transactions. Sometimes it's just cash, sometimes it's going to our hard money lender and getting the cash. But Justin, there's just, I think 2026 is going to be, as long as the market, as long as rates stay where they're at, and as long as there's not a shit ton of buyers entering the market, there's a lot of sellers that are in a bad way, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. But on the credit side, we're seeing a lot more people who are getting 30, 60, 90 days late on their mortgage
Yeah.
payments. Every day, Ryan and I, we get a list of all the previous homeowners from the day before that got a notice of trustee sale, and that list every day is somewhere between 15 to 25 people. What is going on?
I just feel like people have exceeded what they can afford, and I feel like we see it every day on the lending side of things. It's sad to see when those credit cards build up, and it just kind of happens to these people that all of a sudden they just can't afford anything, and then they're maxed out on their cards. We can't refinance them because their credit scores have impacted dramatically from it, and puts them in a bad place. And it's unfortunate that they've done that to themselves, but I feel like that was the common thread for 24, 25, even 23. It was just that building. And I think people are just getting to the point where they just can't do it anymore, and they're having to find a way out. And I feel like getting rid of the home is one of their biggest expenses, and they're dropping it. It's sad to see some of these people with these low rates losing those properties.
I think that the problem is even, sadder than that, because so many relationships hinge on money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you start seeing increased divorce. You start seeing people fighting more. They lose their job, or they have to take on a lower paying job. They start eating shittier. They're working out less. They're doing all these things, and then whether it's death or divorce or one of these, shitty life events occur because just, one little bad decision that they made because they decided to take out a HELOC and go buy that RV and that they couldn't afford or whatever, right? It's not just about them losing the home. I mean, they're losing a hell of a lot more than that from what I have seen personally in some of these circumstances. And while I feel for them, it's just like, like
somebody's got to buy the house.
right, yeah, and you know what? Like what I also see is them going over there buying like beautiful homes at 3%, and they didn't earn their money. Like they either got like money handed to them or something like that.
Yeah, we see
and
that.
then they treat their property like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm over there like, who the hell lives like this? And it's like, you got to take some accountability somewhere. And I'm
And
not
some pride.
Yeah, I'm not a neat freak, but like I'm going to make sure my stuff is taken care of before I
You
just
worked
go out
hard
and-
for it.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people just like they're starting to get a real slap on the wrist for that entitlement mentality. And you know what? I hate cleaning my house. So you know what I do? I hire a housekeeper.
And you put that in your budget.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm not going to, like there's a lot of
You
things.
pay Christine?
I didn't say that, Christine.
I love you.
She would expect it from you.
Yeah, she would.
Well, I think, okay, so the hardest part when people hear the word flips, because I think that is like an exciting term. But the hardest part for everybody, because there's a lot of people that have the money to flip real estate. The hardest part is finding the properties. And you hear that all the time. We work with investors who have the money, who used to flip properties. So we're working on one right now when the market crashed in 07 to 09, flipped like crazy because you couldn't trip and not fall into a flip opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. But now he's at the point, it's hard to find. I can't find these opportunities because I don't have time to make 1,000 calls a day. I don't have a call center. I don't know where these off-market properties come from. And that's where our team really excels at. We're finding these off-market properties. Two, we're able to just look at a property and say whether it's good or,
Understand the margins.
understand the margins. But for the people who are getting excited and want to text the word cash to 623-AZ-RECON, that's cash to 623-AZ-RECON, you've just got to be very careful. Do not invest in real estate. Do not invest in a flip property until you know your strategy. Everybody's got a different strategy. And Ryan and I, we've got a specific strategy. Justin, you got a specific strategy. And then our strategies depend on margins, and our strategies depend on location and price points and so forth. And I think that's probably the greatest, Ryan, it's the greatest value add that we can bring to the table to one of our listeners of sitting down saying, hey, here's what we do. But let's figure out what your goals are, what you have access to, what's your temperament look like, what's your experience level look like, and let's help build out a unique strategy because every single investor has their own unique strategy.
And one of the and I'm going to elaborate on that. One of the things that I hear people say all the time, and usually it's from inexperienced investors. They say, "Oh, well, you got to buy right." And it drives me nuts because I can't tell you how many transactions I've seen go down where I'm like, man, they bought it with massive margin and then they still lost money because it's not just about the acquisition. It's about what you're doing during the time of ownership. And then more importantly, selling it right. I'm seeing these people that they'll go out there and they'll just, do all this. Like maybe they'll work really hard up front because they're excited. And then maybe they'll find another opportunity or something like that happens. And then now all of a sudden they start mismanaging their renovation, or they go and they figured that, oh, well, I hired this agent and, they're going to do it for 1%. And so like that's how I'm going to maximize my margins on this thing. And it's like, seriously? Like, cause it looks like shit now. I don't want to go see it. I went to a flip yesterday. They were not for an acquisition, but some of our clients were looking to buy it because they needed a roof over their head. We walked in there, and the investor who flipped it, now they didn't do a terrible job, but they definitely cut some corners, and they decided, oh, well, good enough is good enough on some areas, which is fine. Still had value. They turned off the electricity, and so the pool had gone to shit. And when we walked in there, the refrigerator, even though there was no food in there, there was still mold, and so it smelled like shit. And then we were looking at it around 5. I think our showing was at 5:30, and so it was right there when the sun was going down, and I could see like they spent a ton of money on their lighting package. And so
Show it off.
yeah, it's like there's no way that they can show off any of that stuff, and so it's like.
It cost them more.
Yeah, and so I already know that just because they turned off their electricity,
It costs them 30, 40 grand.
it's going to cost them a shit ton of money, and it's just like, okay, good job, dude. I know what they bought it for. I can tell you about approximately how much they put into it, probably within 5%, 10% of what they put into it, and now they're going to take a bath because they don't know how to sell it.
That would have cost them $100 a month, to have that.
Yeah,
Just barely on.
idiots.
Yeah.
You
Got to get that.
Especially if you got a pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to cost so much money right there. To
It would have been way worse if it was summertime, but
Yeah.
it was,
And I know how Ryan thinks. He probably walked into it and going, "This is great."
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm over here
We got
salivating.
this.
You know what I mean?
Because my client doesn't buy it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think too, it's about, and again, it's about reaching out to us. Text the word money to 623 AZ Recon. This is an absolute free consultation, and I wouldn't even call it a consultation. It's an education course, and learn what your strategy is. Let us learn what your strategy is. Help you put it together and figure out what your perfect buy box is, and just be on that list. For some people, I gotta have just a kick-ass Airbnb. I'm looking at one right now. I'm not for me because I don't want to do Airbnbs right now. But some people with a lot of cash who want to get into an Airbnb, this is a kick-ass opportunity, and you want to be top of mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
All right. Well, again, if you want us to sit down and work on your investment strategy, go ahead and text the word cash to 623 AZ Recon. That's cash to 623 AZ Recon.